I'm grateful. Grateful for the opportunity to be here and do this. Very grateful to Wes, Robbie, and Miss Charlotte for organizing the All Tennessee Power Up. And I know people will kind of trickle in and trickle out, and I know it's tough, for all of us to get in one place at 8:30 on a Thursday morning. But for those of us that are here, we appreciate it, and it's a really good thing. Like Wes was saying, it's good for us to kind of know each other and understand the different areas and different markets, and to work together here in Tennessee. And I have been given the privilege of discussing lead generation this morning. And I think specifically, we're going to talk about circle prospecting, and I won't hold you too long. And this is something that my team gets to hear me talk about a lot. So they'll enjoy this conversation and hopefully chime in on it as well. But we have the lead gen circle, and there's open houses, and there's sphere, and there's prospecting. Who on the call absolutely loves prospecting? Right, Wes? I mean, I do. Let me see. I'm gonna pick Courtney H. I did not see you raise your hand when I asked that question. Um,
Yeah, I don't like it, but when I do, good things happen. So I need to start doing that more.
well, that's why we're here. That is why we're here.
That's the fun part.
Yes.
I know, yeah.
Um, so yeah, I've actually right here behind me. He's good. Got to be behind me. Justin. He comes from a sales background, but not necessarily real estate sales. Um, and that skill is kind of transferable, and that's kind of one of the I guess the benefits, the value of what we do as Place Nation is having the right script, right? What do we say? Wes, say the right thing, say it enough times, and say it to enough people. Um, for someone like him, all we had to do was get him saying the right thing, and he prospects and he sets an appointment almost every day when he gets on the phone. There's a gentleman also on the call on our team, Steven Hurd, who I cannot get to prospect, but he set an appointment his very first day trying it while he was in launch. And Joker hadn't been on the phone since then. And I put him on the spot. So, and it's just one of those things that we have to, I remember when I was first practicing it, it probably took me about 6 months actually to get an appointment, to get someone through an expired call to make an appointment with me. So it takes time, just like any other skill. But this morning, we're going to talk about the importance of it, which I think we all know. We're going to talk about a few ways, and I borrowed this from Fred Said, so I don't take credit for any of this. Fred Said taught this class, I don't know, 3 to 4 months ago, and it changed my life. And so we're going to look at some of that stuff. But what we've learned, especially in this market, and I would think that you guys would agree, you're seeing the same thing, that it's the quote unquote old school stuff that's working. There's a gentleman sitting right where you can't see him. He's on the other side of the computer. His name's Zach Davis, and I think he took 4 listings in the last 30 days from knocking doors around in open houses. And Justin's got a few appointments from doing things like circle prospecting. So it's the old school prospecting that we're seeing work right now. And why do you guys think that is? If anybody wants to chime in, why do you think the old school stuff, quote unquote old school stuff, is working more than just buying?
Because everybody's doing the new school stuff.
Exactly.
Stands out.
Everybody's buying Facebook ads. Everybody's buying Instagram ads. Everybody's trying to compete with Gary Ashton here in Nashville and buy billboards. Wes, by the way, there's an open bid. Who wants to be the real estate team for the Titans? It only costs you about $5 million a year, but if you guys want to do it, you could. But the Tennessee Titans, but Gary Ashton's going to give it up. But anyway,
I'm sure Mark Spain's up there.
Yeah, Mark Spain. I think I can only think of him and a few other people who would be willing to pay that. So I'm anxious to see who it's going to be. But I heard that Gary's giving it up.
He's flooding our area right now.
Yeah, he's all over here too. So which that is, I'm glad that you bring up Mark Spain. So that is one method, right? And it's a large overhead method. It's a big time marketing method, which can work. Here at Place, we teach profitability, and that's not a super profitable model, but it makes money. But here at Place, we teach profitability, and we teach growth, we teach sustainability. And so when everybody's trying to do what Mark Spain does and buy billboards and do Facebook ads and be passive, right? They don't want to actually pick up the phone and call. They would just rather the phone ring and then somebody say, all right, I just met you 2 seconds ago, but come help me with one of the largest investments I'll ever make in my life ever. I just called into you. Just like walking into a jewelry store. I just walked in and Steve helped me buy $1 million house. And unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. So what we have to do is we have to prospect and we have to nurture and when people are being flooded by ads and cold calls from people that don't have any value and don't have the right scripts and seeing billboards all over the place and radio ads, all these kind of passive things, we have to be prospecting based. And we're finding that those things are actually working way more than some of the marketing and some of the internet leads, which I love internet leads, guys. I'm not somebody who's going to tell you that that's not a great thing. I absolutely love it. That's how I started. But we've just learned that prospecting is the key. And the rate of return right now is like 2, 3, 4 times greater than what we're seeing on our internet leads. So with that, we will go into it. Does anybody have any questions just on that or anything to add? Floor, you don't have anything to add? Stacey D, you got anything for us?
Well, yeah, I like what you were saying. The traditional methods are definitely paying off. If you're not doing open houses, you're doing yourself a disfavor. So, I've been pulled probably 3 clients in the last 4 weeks out of open houses and got them under contract. So, definitely stay steadfast to the traditional methods.
Yeah, and I would even say double and triple down on them. When we say 150 calls a day, which we're going to talk about maybe 250. Is Jason here? I always tell Jason, Jason is a guy in my office, he gets to 150 and he turns Mojo off. And it'll be 9:30 in the morning and he started at 9:15. And I said, Jason, what else do you have to do right now? So, maybe even double or triple down sometimes on the quote unquote traditional methods. But I will, let's see, it looks like Wes has given me the ability to share my screen. I'm going to do just that. All right. Can everybody see the screen? Cool. So again, on behalf of Fred Said out of Southern California, one of our Place partners, I thought about changing the slide and taking credit for it, but then I said, nah, I want everybody to know who Fred is anyway, because he's a great guy. So this is who gave this stuff to me. But prospecting, the first thing really with anything in sales, the first step is mindset. Would everybody agree? It's mindset. We used to say we do what we don't want to do and we don't want to do it at the highest level. And that's where success is. One of my wife Amy's on the call and she's an agent as well. And one of the things we always used to tell each other is the thing you don't want to do today is probably the thing that's going to make you the most money. So if you wake up, and I don't know why it works like that. If you wake up and you're like, man, I don't want to make calls today, that's probably where your success is. If Saturday morning comes and you're like, man, I'd really much rather go to the park than go do an open house, that's probably where your success is. And I'm not sure why things work out that way, but it's a mindset, right? It's a long-term, it's a nurture game. And when you're prospecting, you're adding future sellers and buyers to your CRM. The idea is not that you call random people and they say, yes, come list my house, or yes, come sell my, which does happen. But the idea is that you're making relationships, right? You're meeting people. And usually they're 3 to 24 months before they actually do something. And the power of prospecting is that there's no competition. We spent $250 a lead on an internet lead and 25 other agents also got that lead. And by the way, half of them are paying these ISA staffs overseas that are going to call and call and call, and people at the wall just stop answering the phone. But when you circle prospect someone or you door knock someone, a lot of times there is no competition because they haven't necessarily raised their hand to say that they're going to make a move, but they will. And you have to be ready to talk to renters, buyers, wrong numbers, You know, you're knocking on a door, might not be the person that owns the house. Heck, it might be a family member visiting from out of town, especially here in Nashville and Clarksville. But you got to be ready to talk to them. We'll focus kind of on calling in certain geographic areas, and overall, we believe this pillar it takes big activities and follow up, but we believe that it's very worth it, if that makes sense. Any questions? Anybody have anything to add? So the nice thing about this is that we're all part of one big family, Place Inc. And so we all should have the same standard. And I know Wes and Miss Teresa don't have any slack when it comes to this, but $150 a day, which equals $750 a week. We circle prospect. Our prospecting arm is via Mojo. And here we've kind of added door knocking to that as well. And so we also want to do 50 plus CRM nurture or follow-up dials a week. That's basically people that you've added to your Brivity. You want to be calling them as well. We always want to text and email only after attempting voice-to-voice contact. A lot of agents like to come in and say, I texted them or I emailed them, but what is it about picking up the phone? What is it, guys? Why don't people want to call? I don't understand. I like calling way better than texting or emailing. I'm gonna pick on only because you're the only person. No, there's two people with their cameras on that aren't on my team. Miss Jana Brown. Why don't people like to pick up the phone? Why don't agents like to call? Oh, no.
Yeah, I think it's the toughest thing for agents to do. Fear of rejection, confidence and fear of not having a product that to be excited about, which is us.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve Hurd. What do you want to do here? I don't know if I can see it.
With me, it's just the lack of education, knowing what to say, how to say it. And to tell you the truth, just pick up the phone is, I'm coming from over 10 years in education, being a high school teacher. And I still find it hard to actually pick up the phone and talk to complete strangers. It just completely petrifies me at times. So that's one of the main reasons I've been avoiding trying to do phone calls. So I've been focusing on doing a few door knockings around my neighborhood and getting my sphere expanded. I guess those are just excuses though for me not to call.
Well, and I appreciate you guys sharing. And we wouldn't call them excuses, right? But they are, what do we call that, Wes? I think call reluctance. And it is a real thing. And that's fair, right? What do I say? And then there's always in our mind, what am I going to say when they say this? Like, yes, Steve, I appreciate the script you gave me, and I appreciate this, and I appreciate hearing you do. But what are you going to do, Steve, when well, his name is Steve too, but talking about me, what are we going to do when they say this and you didn't prepare me for it? And that is all we ever think about. Well, first of all, we'll never know until we get on the phone and try and get there. That's number one. I mean, we'll certainly never pick up the business if we don't pick up the phone or knock the door. But also, that's the power of script practice and the power of daily accountability and just daily getting better. And that's also why when Wes and Miss Teresa and Miss Charlotte and Robbie and myself say things like, we want you guys in the office for 3 hours in the morning, and everybody says, oh, but I could do this from home. That's also a part of it too, so that we can hear each other, right? Because I learned even from my agents, sometimes they'll get a question on the phone and then they say something and I'm like, whoa, that's an awesome script, right? Let's write that down. That's a great way to handle that objection. So, so corporate lead generation, we call it, is just really, I think that's, we kind of think of it, and in Clarksville, we have a little bit of a military background. We kind of think of it like going to war every morning. We go together, and we don't intend to come back empty-handed. Okay, so Fred says 5 new nurtures added to your CRM a week and 50 real estate conversations a week. Right, that's all we're trying to do, guys. We're not telling you to be in a call center and be on the phone for 8 hours a day. We're saying let's practice some scripts. Let's do $150 a day, $750 a week using Mojo. And I say sometimes, you know, if you make 100 on the phone, then go knock 50 doors, or maybe you make 125 in the office and you go talk to 25 people at the grocery store. But the idea is that we want to talk to 150 people a day, asking them for the opportunity to help them with real estate at some point in their life. All right, there we go. Does anybody on the call play sports other than the guys in my office that I know play sports? Let me see. Anybody else? Wes, do you play sports?
Long time ago.
What did you play?
I wrestled and I tried to play football, but that just didn't really work out. I got injured before the season started 2 years in a row. So I said,
Okay.
guess I'm not supposed to be there.
Well, well, I'm glad I never messed with Wes. I didn't know he was a wrestler, so I'm glad I never decided to pick a fight with him because I played tuba in the marching band, so you would have had me. But if as a wrestler, Wes, I imagine there's certain things that you had to do, right? Certain drills you had to practice, you had to do certain workouts, there's a bunch of prep work, all leading up to the one match, which may have been 5-10 minutes, you know what I mean? But you spent hours and hours and hours prepping. But we as real estate agents want to get a license and then go sell $1 million properties and hang out with the guys on $1 million listing Nashville. And it just doesn't work that way. Our prep time is the script practice. And, most people in most professions, right? The musician spends hours and hours and hours in the practice room for a performance that's 30 minutes. The athlete spends hours and hours and hours in the gym and on the field and in the weight room for a 1 or 2 hour performance, right? Game. But we as real estate agents want to spend 2 minutes and 30 seconds on our scripts and then get on the phone and sell a bunch of real estate and live like Wes lives over in Nashville. So unfortunately, that's just not the reality, right? It's not the truth, but there's a way, right? There is a way we can be successful, and there is a way we can get to where we want to be. We just got to spend a little time. And one of them is the scripts, right? The scripts is the power. Scripts are the power. One mentor I had in real estate used to say, he or she who masters scripts masters the market. And when I heard that 7 years ago, I thought, whatever, dude, you just want me to go home and sit in my room and read these stupid scripts, and this is boring, and I just want to go sell stuff. But over the years, I've come to learn that he was exactly right. If you knew the scripts, if you knew the objection handlers, if you knew the conversation patterns of sales, you would be wildly more successful. And so while I spent a lot of time banging my head up against the wall, I should have been spending more time on scripts. I would have went a lot further, a lot faster. So what are some ways to practice your scripts? Write them out once a day. Who's going to do that? Nobody, but at least now you can't say we didn't tell you. Read your scripts out loud as fast as possible 5 times a day. Who does it? Nobody, but it works. Role play for 15 minutes per day. And I know most of us do that in our offices, and then use your script on live calls and fail forward. You got to fail. You got to fail. How about that? All right. So there's some circle prospecting scripts that I know you guys have. And we all, oh my gosh, how do I work computers? There we go. I know you guys have, and so I won't necessarily cover the script, but it is available to everyone. And I think, the last week, the Power Up script was circle prospecting, wasn't it? I think it might, I'm not sure it is this week, but we'll send this out. If you don't already have it, I'm sure you do. So when we're prospecting, and it says circle prospecting, but it's just a focus on prospecting in general, we got to find the motivated. So you can't motivate someone to sell or buy. You got to find someone they're motivated by asking questions. And a motivated seller wants to sell at some point, is open to meeting with you, and we'll talk to you. And you can create urgency for someone who's motivated. And around here, we say, like, if somebody's a jerk and they don't want to talk to you and they say, don't ever call me again, then just don't ever call them again. Just get off the phone with them. There's, so don't be in your head about the person who's going to reject you, because that's not the person we want to work with anyway. We want to work with the person that wants our help. So we're going to find them motivated. We've got to create urgency in anything we do. And so Fred talks about one-line closings. We are currently getting our sellers $50,000 to $150,000 above market value. If we can do the same for you, would you consider selling in the next 90 days, right? And there's different examples here of certain closes. We know what we can net you in today's market, yet the market changes. Sorry, I can't see. I have to move this. Yeah, if the market changes, that won't be the case. We got to get their motivation. If I can net you what you need now, then why wait? The inventory is the lowest that it has ever been, and we know that we can get you more money than ever before. If we can do the same for you, would you consider selling in the next 90 days? Right. And so when we have these one-line closes, and if you need more, you can always reach out to us or reach out to Miss Teresa, and we can always call Fred and say, Fred, help me. What do I say? I don't know what to say. I've tried everything and people still won't work with me. So what do I say? But just knowing what to say, right, and having things like this in your toolkit. And these folks that are prospecting at a high level will tell you that this stuff works and people are wanting to do business with you, and they're respecting it. So you got to create the urgency. See. So closing best practices. Every call, close at least 4 to 6 times. They're going to say no the first time. Hi, I'm Steve Gilbert. I just met you 2 seconds ago. I love this $1.5 million home that you have. Would you let me sell it tomorrow? I can make you a lot of money. Like, no, Steve, get off my phone. I don't know you. So I may have to ask a few times, and I may have to provide value and use some closes. But if I just ask once and they say no, and I get off the phone and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you so much for not working with me. Bye. And that's why most of us make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls and then say that we don't get any appointments, because we don't keep going. We don't. They say, leave me alone. And you say, okay, bye. Right? And see, isn't that true, Courtney? That's what you do, isn't it? I can tell. And I know, because that's what I used to do. Me and Preston Roberts would be on the phones, and he would be like, dude, you didn't even ask him. You said hello, and they said, leave me alone, and you got off the phone and patted yourself on the back. That's what I used to do. Well, I made the call. No, we've got to keep on going. We've got to close a few times. We've got to have some closes memorized, and we got to love the rejection, because everybody can't say no, right? So we got to get through the no's to get to the yes. Oh yeah, here it is. Yep. All right, there you go. Every no gets you closer to a yes. All right. Fred says these are his top 5 closes. Because this is like Steve Hurd was saying, sometimes the reluctance is just knowing what to say. So we had our one-liner closes, and now these are the top 5. I have time later today at 4 p.m. or tomorrow at 6 p.m. What time works better for you? If there were a financial benefit for you to list with me rather than sell it on your own, wouldn't you do it? Wouldn't you? If there was a better way to get your home sold, wouldn't you at least want to know about it? And if you've received an acceptable offer last week, would you have sold it? I'm confident that I can get you a better return on your investment. Let's meet so that I can show you how. I'm a realtor, and if somebody called me and said that, I might say, yeah, come over to my house today at 4 p.m., right? And then I'd have to remember that I'm in real estate and that I could probably do it for myself. But these are good stuff. Okay. The fortune is in the follow-up. This is the biggest part, and it is 8:59, and I know that this is blocked out for an hour, but I don't intend to keep you guys for longer than 30 minutes. So that means I got 1 minute to wrap up. But if you guys have ever met a Baptist preacher, you know it's going to be a few minutes longer than 1 minute. Now, the fortune is in the follow-up, and this is the most important part, which is where most of us miss. Even if I can get you to get on the phone and make the dials, and even if I can get you to add people to your database, most likely you're never going to call those people again. I don't understand. It's like, I've got a good friend who we used to go, and my wife's on the call, sorry, babe. We used to go out to the bars, right? We'd ask for people's numbers, and he never called them. He'd get phone numbers left and right. He'd stare at his phone and be afraid to call, right? And so the nerdy tuba player guy, myself, I beat him every time because I was willing to at least pick up the phone. And it's the same with real estate agents. We call these people, we ask them out, and then we never call them back, right? We take their information, they give us their emails, they give us their phone numbers, they trust us, and we never call them again. We stare at them in our database, and we never talk to them again. Why do we do that? I don't know. But the fortune is in the follow-up. 80% of the sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. 10% are made on the 4th contact. 5% are made on the 3rd contact. So I'm reading the slide from the bottom up. And then the top statistic is that 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. I would argue that it's higher than that. Because it's just that when they were doing the survey, some of y'all were lying. So the number said 48%. But the truth is probably that 75% of salespeople never follow up. And 25% make second contact and stop. 12% only make 3 contacts and stop. And only 10% make more than 3 contacts. And those are the people where you say, doggone, how are they selling so many homes? Well, those are the folks that are calling, right? And not just new people. We're calling people that are in our database. We call that follow-up, nurture. Be annoying. I just had somebody on my team, his name's Will Armstrong. I don't know if he's on the call. He wanted me to hear this lady say this so bad. And I went to this appointment with him and she said, yes. I called him because basically he annoyed me to the point that I couldn't think of anybody else. And when I decided I wanted to sell my house and buy another one, I didn't know anybody else to call because he was just so annoying. He just kept calling me. He just would not stop. And I hear that all the time. But most of us think that's a negative thing. If you want to buy something, you're going to get really excited about it. But then life's going to happen. You're going to have schoolwork. You're going to have work. You're going to have family stuff. You're going to have this. You're going to have that. So then the salesperson is going to keep calling you. You might even have a bad day and you cuss them out and say, why do you keep calling me so much? But then the next day, when you decide all at once that you have to have that thing, the only person you're going to think about is that annoying salesperson that kept calling you. And that's going to be the first person you call. So when you guys are doing prospecting, I want you to remember that it doesn't matter if you don't want to do it, you should do it because it works. And I want you to remember that the scripts work. And then I want you to remember that prospecting, don't have the pressure on yourself to call someone and then they just say, yes, I'm going to work with you today. Have the pressure on yourself to find people that you can stay in touch with and follow up with them. And I promise you, if you find 3 people today to follow up with, within 3 to 6 months, if you do it right, you'll have 2 or 3 sales. I promise you. So that is where I will end. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or things to add? My people are just looking at me like, shut up, because I hear this all the time. Anybody, anything to add?
I think,
Is
yeah,
everybody- Go ahead.
I think you had a great takeaway as far as with the being consistent with follow-up. That is always the key to getting the listings. And that's what we all want to get because they're so much easier to manage than buyers.
So much.
I was going to say the same thing about follow-up. Some of my biggest listings and sales have just been from following up, even just sending a text
That's it.
of a comp nearby. I'm like, oh, look at this. This is cool. And he's like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like I did that for months and then got the listing and I mean,
Yeah.
follow-up works.
So here's, and I'll put you on the spot, Courtney, because you like you have your camera on, you're not on my team, so I'm gonna pick on you. You did that once and it worked really well for you, right?
Mhm.
Why didn't you multiply it by 5?
I know. Well, a lot of the past people that I've done with my biggest have been follow-up over a year and
Right.
months and months. So I'm still trying to, the people that I have in my quote nurturing now, I'm
Mhm.
still doing that whole follow-up every month just to kind of,
Because this is, well, you're sounds like you're squared away because you're with Wes, but my people will go to an open house and they'll get 3 people from an open house and then they won't do an open house again for 6 months, right? So my point was like, why we have to be consistent with it, but it sounds like you are consistent. But if you can do it once, I used to have a bold coach that says you can do it again and again and again. So if you had one person that happened for, if you took 10 people and did that with, then at some point that's 10 guaranteed sales was my point. But it sounds like, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, but that was the only point we're trying to make, which is that that's the other thing is like, once we get successful with our prospecting, we want to have big businesses with it. So we take that same thing that you just said and find a way to multiply it. But that's really simple things. Like she said, send in the text and just staying in touch. It doesn't have to be this big thing. Just got to follow up consistently. Thank you for your input. Anybody else? Anything, Wes? You got anything for me? Did I do okay?
No, you did great. I really appreciate the passion that you bring to it too, and also the level of accountability that you exert on your team. Your team may not want to hear you, but it's like anything else. We know it needs done, and after we do it, we feel better about it. It's like going to the gym. After you do it, you feel good, but you don't want to go in early in the morning. So
Right.
I think that's great.
I did not feel good after I go to the gym last, but that's okay. People keep telling me that's how you're supposed to feel, but that is not how I feel. Well, anyway, everybody have a great day. That's all I have. But if you ever need us here in the Clarksville, Kentucky-ish area, let us know. We're here to help.
All right.
All right, cool.
See you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Power up.
Oh,
Power up.